Okay, we can call the ACF meeting to order. We do have a quorum of the committee here. Do we have any, do we have a minute taker tonight?
I can do it.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? I have one item I may add to the agenda at the end. Just we did get a request from Josh Arneson to submit a 5-year update on. There's basically a requirement on the town forest plan, and I circulated to everybody by email just in the last hour. I got it, but we do have a response to the town. Some questions. First action, it's before the committee, is a review and acceptance of the minutes from our December 19 meeting. We did have those minutes were drafted and circulated for comment before. Any other changes or corrections to those minutes?
Motion to approve the December 19 minutes.
Thanks, Jim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved.
Actually, Jesse, could we discuss that for a quick second? Just because we made some decisions last time about what we would and wouldn't include in the minutes. Is it worth refreshing for all of us? We just decided to do like a recap, right?
Oh, yeah. So I mean, when you're taking the notes.
Yeah.
So we would, before we moved on, we would recap what still gonna go in there. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't have to be like verbatim craziness like I was
Correct.
doing.
So who did the minutes last time?
I
You
did.
did. Yeah.
It
That was
verbatim
great.
craziness.
Huh?
Some of it was verbatim craziness.
No, it was actually easy to like chunk it out and say, all right, we talked about X and here, blah, blah, blah. And then the next section, but it was all agreeing on the recap.
You
Yes.
did a recap summary, which
Okay.
I think is good. I think that's probably. I think there's room for people to be their comfort level in terms of what detail they have previous to the recap, but the recap and the conclusion are the necessary minimum, right? And then depending on your note taking approach, you can have many bulleted points if you want previous to it. Okay, so moving in, we're up to part D of the committee agenda. So that's the content subcommittee report. So just to bring everybody circle back, we were up to date. You'll recall that at our last meeting when we met with Melissa Levy, we talked about the development of different subcommittees that would help us towards getting ready for the public engagement. And so these subcommittees have had their first attempts to be able to get together. Really, it's driven initially by the content subcommittee. So that's Nick and I. Cecilia's on it, but she didn't have the time to participate this month. So Nick and I are driving that forward. Nick and I had a meeting where we worked on sort of a content agenda. And then we also had a meeting with Melissa Levy to share that information with her and get her feedback. So I think where we are at is we have an engagement agenda format. And from that, I think we need to talk a little bit about what content needs to be produced so that some of the marketing and materials committees can start their work. So I'm going to pull up a separate email. Okay, so the general structure of what we've talked about is, and this is similar to what Melissa had talked to us about in her report, is having an open house format early on in the meeting, a 15 to 20 minute piece of time. That would be a chance to get to view some key materials that would be in a large format structure. So I know we've talked about maps before. But that's, as we're talking along, I think that's something for everyone to think about collectively. What are the core items that we would want to be part of that open house type of presentation so that people could get acclimated to what we're doing, what the big picture is. Okay. Then we had a 10 to 15 minute piece where the ACF committee itself would have a welcome and provide a short PowerPoint presentation. In that PowerPoint presentation, something Nick and I worked out sort of what that structure would look like and what the materials would go into that. Some of those items might be suitable for the blow up. So we can consider that a little bit. I'll give you the full sort of meeting structure.
Hey, Jesse.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just have a quick question. Do you want me to like note this in the minutes so that we can go back who are on other subcommittees to know the structure? Or are you going to send this out separately?
I can send this, I can
Okay,
forward
cool.
this email to everybody, so that's not a problem. So then 20 minutes for basically breakout small groups.
This is after the welcome kind of
Yeah,
slide.
this is after the welcome, so after the PowerPoint. Then we have these smaller group meetings. And each of these groups would be advising on, we talked about this with Melissa quite a bit about how to structure those and what would be the basis of the breakouts. And where we came to was thinking that it should be probably directed by the management objectives that are in the plan. So the forest management objectives that are detailed. Those that we are impacting by our proposed changes, which are primarily trail driven. That those could be the components of breakout sessions. So, you know, how is the trail design meeting those different objectives? So we're trying to avoid a situation where every topic on ecology is discussed in one breakout, right? It's not going to work to have breakout sessions if everyone is interested in just being part of one of the sessions. We want to have that discussion occur in different places within the meeting.
That makes sense.
So then there'd be a section for the breakout committees to be able to report back out. So about 10 minutes to present back to the full. And then we would have 45 to 60 minutes on the Q&A with the experts. I think that that's important to have, you know, as much of the meeting dedicated to that. And then 5 minutes, just thank you and next steps. So 2 hours. Sorry, Melissa.
I know you've already contacted it earlier and the Vermont Land Trust. Does it make sense to have the Sinuosity group as part of those experts as well?
I don't know, Jim, like, was that considered to be sort of part of Arrowwood presenting? Were they thinking it was going to be an Arrowwood Sinuosity thing, or were they?
I think I believe it's just Arrowwood, and that seemed to be, I mean, we're paying for all this time. That seemed, yeah, it seemed to be that I think he would be, or I think Arrowwood would be the best representation for the questions that may arise, quite honestly. And Aaron's pretty fluid with their piece of it because they did work in conjunction. I don't know if you were here, we built that RFP, but they're in equal footing.
I would agree with that too. And then could we talk about order for a second?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that Q&A should go prior to the breakouts, because that's providing more information for people to discuss. So I wonder if those two get swapped.
Yeah, that was occurring to me too, Caitlin. Just wondering because if it's just people discussing stuff that we've been discussing and questions that people have had all along without having had the chance to ask it.
Yeah.
So the breakout group would be pretty much the last thing, and reporting out, that'd be the end.
Yeah, which feels like it would be a bit of a sudden, like, okay, bye-bye.
Right.
Like there should be some discussion there then. So maybe, yeah, I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to. What's the format for that discussion, you know, other than the small groups where it's occurring, and then from there, it isn't a lot of the purpose of the meeting to gather the information from the public that we're gathering that. So, and then giving us the opportunity to digest that and make further changes to the management plan. I just don't know
Okay,
how we're going to have fruitful discussion until we can digest what we get out of the.
yeah, that's fair. Okay.
Yeah, that, is it more like those discussions come up, kind of generate succinct questions for the experts? Do you know, like the report out from those groups informs making a more targeted use of the experts that are there?
Although it's plausible, all those questions might just get directed at us, though. Like, I kind of wonder if there are like a few questions that the experts would get. But then I would otherwise be like, well, why did you guys not do this? Or why didn't you pick, or, you know, those sort of things.
And one thing is, if we're hoping that people that haven't been tuning in every week chime in on the discussion, what would let them enter that breakout with more information? That's a good point. Probably getting the Q&A beforehand, saying like, okay, now I kind of know what's going on.
Right.
I'm wondering about that.
Yeah, I mean, if they haven't done any, they'll have the opportunity to come in and sort of review the open house items and then hear our PowerPoint. So they'll have that, 35 minutes of education introduction. It's something before you get into a breakout.
Mhm.
I was thinking that if you do finish with the 10-minute report backs from the groups, then maybe one person, I don't know who that would be, maybe Melissa Levy or one less, would kind of have a quick conclusion, sort of wrapping up the threads and hitting a highlight from each of the 10-minute report backs, like this, wrapping that all together into sort of one. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, something we could talk to her about. She may have good experience on sort of what's a clean way of sort of pulling it back together.
One thing that we talked a little bit about is what the breakout groups would be tasked with. Like, for example, one of the that came up just now was to task them with coming up with questions for the experts. Something we had been thinking prior was to task them with something related to making recommendations for how to achieve the management objectives related to their group. So what they would be coming out with would be a list of recommendations for the committee. So why am I saying that? That affects where it goes in the sequence, or relates to that at least. But I guess I'm also trying to bring us back to, as we try to sequence it, to think about what the function is and what we're trying to get out of the whole event and of the breakout in particular.
So it's actionable information we're trying to get out from them. It's not just a litany of.
That's also a key component to that. Yeah, it's like, given the parameters we have, and here are the parameters on posters, we presented them, you've got data from the experts now to demonstrate that. Given the parameters and the reality of the situation, how do you recommend we manage the parcel for wildlife, for trail-based recreation? It's not right to say how do you manage the parcel for land acknowledgement, but whatever it is your group related to that.
I just wonder how the small groups get shepherded through that process.
Yeah.
Given the disparate nature of having small group breakouts, and that it would be unfortunate to have a group veer off in one direction and come back to the larger group with something that feels sort of out of left field, regardless of what that is, but it is harder to kind of guide that discussion if there's not a facilitator there.
Was that going to be us facilitating those small groups? Is that what you get? Did you discuss that at all?
Melissa did recommend that one of us, basically each staff one of those groups.
Okay.
Which I, to me, on the one hand, it makes sense, like as for getting concerns. And also, I would love to have each one of the staff by a new facilitator as a brand new person with this discussion. I don't think that's feasible, but that's what I would prefer.
We could do a simple like group discussion protocol where the committee member that's in the group discussion doesn't have to be the leader. The protocol guides the thing. I mean,
You got an educator in the house.
I was
here,
just
don't
gonna
we?
say, man, protocol that.
Yeah, maybe, I'm just thinking,
How many? I got a book of them.
if that would help, if there were
Yeah.
some people that were very vocal in a small group and someone else that was like, if you do something where, like a save the last word for me thing,
Yeah.
where someone introduces the question, everyone goes around, and then the person who introduced it shares their bit and as, like, everyone has 1 minute, and then the last person says theirs and then summarizes, and then brings what they heard back, and they take some notes. But it's like, everyone's got a minute on this. If you have time, go on this next question, or
That's an awesome idea, and I think one of the questions we'll have is like, how many people are gonna show up? Because like certain activities will work with 10 people in a small group, but aren't gonna work if you got 30 people in a small group, so. I don't know how we navigate that.
yeah, I would think at 30, you'd make it into 3 10s. If you're doing something like that.
And
Right.
then if we run out of facilitators, to just entrust people with the protocol is written and just
Yeah.
have somebody pick it.
I mean, I know, what you
pick
mean,
up a
like,
whole. you
it's a
just
whole nother use of
facilitate.
time to introduce a protocol.
No, it's fine though.
And
I
then-
mean, I have plenty of them. So that's a great idea.
Mhm.
It's helpful for everyone to be on the same page when they walk into a room. Everyone's on equal footing then, which is nice. It's not one person starts dominating.
I don't know if you're in teacher staff meetings, you do a lot of this.
Yeah.
How many management kind of objectives? Groups do we think there would be? Did you?
I'd say it's just time to think about, and I'm thinking about a little bit about it now too, is
There's like
do
four.
we
six.
want, do we want to have, do we want to allow people to self-select a group, or do we instead make all the groups sort of equal footing? Everyone deals with the same sort of, and it's easier for us to facilitate the groups that way too, because then we are only having to instruct our own group about, okay, this is sort of, this is what the discussion is, and it's not like, oh, you have to run the indigenous, discussion, and you need to run one on ecology, and right. So maybe, and that also, what I'm trying to avoid is getting a situation where like all the voices are coming out of one group. We want to get like each, that way you're getting a better subset of the community on if everyone's touching each topic.
I kind of like that idea. And it's like the 3-4 topic areas, and everybody could still be charged with what are your recommendations for moving us towards this, given these parameters. And every group touches on all of them. I like that.
Like it to me that way we would have a scramble of people all trying to get in on one group.
Yeah.
I think it's the most important.
You can divide up the groups into the same number of people regardless of the size. And you can design a protocol around 10 people per group.
Mhm.
And we'll either have 10 facilitators, we'll have 4 or whatever. Something like that.
We could roll that, the management objectives into the protocol.
It could even be like a note-taking
mean,
template that has the protocol, so someone can just pick it up and then just write down, each person gets 1 minute on talking about trails, each person. gets
Yeah,
1 minute on
right.
talking about
Is that what
this
you're
thing.
saying?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like here's how it's gonna flow and put those right. in the
Yeah, I
protocol.
like that. And so everyone gets to think a little, and maybe a different person guides each, you pass it around, and someone facilitates the first question, someone else in the group facilitates the second. And there's a note taker that can bring stuff back.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, that could be a good collection. Not only does it like make clearer to the group what's the purpose of this and what's the outcome of it, it would streamline them bringing it back to present to the whole group. And then also would be a takeaway for us that's already kind of collated for being able to really make sure we absorb everything that was discussed. There's sort of an actual template for note taking rather than the many different ways that all of us do that sort of thing and then turn it in.
All right, I'll find a protocol. I'll find a couple and fill them in and dummy it up, and I'll pass that around.
So what you're calling a protocol is like instructions to the facilitator and like a group agreement about how we're going to talk, or.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we always do that, this is a talking piece and we'll share the talking piece when it's your turn for kids. But it's kind of, this is how, that's what I assume you meant by protocols, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the last thing we want to do is get in a room and someone like, what's this? Like, and all of a sudden, like, we start going off on all kinds of tangents, right? We don't, if we're talking 15, 20 minutes, right? Roughly.
and some people put in,
So
a
the
ton of
small groups are
time.
15 to 20 minutes.
Hmm?
You said the small groups are 15 to 20 minutes.
20 minutes is what we
yeah,
roughed out.
so I think something where the air gets shared,
Mhm.
we should do. All right.
I also, hearing about that timing though, I kind of wonder if one of the main goals is for us to get actual information. I wonder if Q&A for experts gets shrunk a little bit and then we give more time for the breakout groups, because 20 minutes doesn't sound like a huge amount of time for covering all these topics. Or am I off base on that?
Very short amount. I agree.
Expert Q&A was how much time?
45?
Said 45 to 60, and it's dependent on some of these others.
And
Yeah,
are they going to present
30,
as well?
30 seems,
No.
Not at all.
It's going to be, so
I don't
the
think
idea
so.
was that we would encourage presentation of questions in advance in writing, so that we could collect a lot of them that way, and then the experts would be able to review and prepare and properly, combine them so they could address as many things. And then there probably would be a limited amount of time in there for some live questioning.
Right, so the sort of allocation of time for these different things begs the question of the purpose again, sort of, is it more about getting input in, or is it more about making sure that we're responding to the questions that people have?
Different people want different things out of this meeting, I think.
Yeah.
I'm thinking also to the input in, like that function, another function that is sort of helping us to take a rough temperature of the community again at this point, right? It's like not a random sample of all Richmond community members, but it is we've been hearing some very loud voices, and it is a chance for us to hear something closer to a broader view, hopefully, so we get the turnout. For the nature of the input, and I think generally recommendations how to manage the forest coordinated management plan, but also that contextualizing some of the feedback, I think is very
Including for the select board too.
it's like one.
In your schedule, did you account for transition times? Right.
Really fast.
Well, because I'm just thinking too about like getting a large group of people from small groups back to this, and maybe thinking about how much time we actually have for the different parts of it.
Yeah.
You don't account for people milling around and chatting and being like, okay, we're coming back here, like that all takes up a
we
while.
gotta eat the snacks we buy.
Yeah.
Not a problem. The one thing, just to think about this, the school was pretty adamant that it's a hard stop. It's a hard stop because of the custodial staff.
Mhm.
She did say, you guys, when you're done, you can't be hanging out talking and like, hey, she's like, you gotta get out. So just to be cognizant of that. We need to be out at 8.
Everybody outdoors.
So is the meeting 5:30 to 7:30,
I think it's 6 to 8, but we gotta go at
but we
8.
have to be out the door at 8.
It's-
Out the door at 10 of 8, then it's
10 of
6 to 7:50.
Yeah. It's 2 hours.
I like a hard stop.
I like that.
I mean, we could, right? I just say that if we start working backwards on Daniel's.
Well, let's,
No, it makes sense.
if we keep the open house component, and I mean, that's probably thinking in some ways, maybe the most difficult transition is getting people from the open house to the welcome PowerPoint. You gotta kind of get everybody out of social mode and into.
We gotta-
How early can we get into the room?
Excuse me?
How early can we get into the room? Do we only have it 6 to 8 or?
We have it 6 to 8, but she was okay with us coming in and setting up. I mean,
I'm just wondering if we could start the open house at like 5:45 so that it's milling and then the meeting starts at 6. But I don't know how long you had left for the
I
milling.
don't know. Do we have
I don't
enough
know.
kind of flexibility?
I don't know. I mean, the other thing I guess I need to know is where are these breakout rooms gonna be? Do you anticipate classrooms? Do you anticipate corners of the cafeteria? That will be loud.
According to the cafeteria, it's huge. Cafeteria is huge.
Cafeteria is
Right.
loud though with 60 people.
That's what I was picturing, but it's true. We just have no idea how many people are gonna come.
No,
It would be good to have some options for classrooms that are nearby.
the other option too is like, there's hallways. I mean, it's not ideal, but
Sometimes hard to call people back from a
Yeah,
class.
we don't want to like get people too far afield either. Just wanting to.
Borrow the table buzzers from Hatchet and call people back with those.
I mean, it'll be loud when people are in there milling around, but if we have 5, 6 breakout, I guess that would still be loud, but in theory, if only one person has a talking stick at once. Might be okay in the same room.
yeah, or I mean, there's edges of all, I mean, if you've been in there, there's corners of that hallway by the main door that leads into the cafeteria, right?
There's a big hall.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we could do that relatively. But I said, no, I didn't think we need classrooms. That just seemed,
Yeah.
That'll get confusing.
Yeah, if there's enough chairs in the cafeteria, people can drag the chairs out into the hall if it does just feel like it's overwhelming in the cafeteria.
So if we really have a hard stop at 8, I'm starting to think we should advertise it 5:45 to 7:45. Or is that weird?
I
Makes
don't
sense.
disagree, but I'm just thinking about, I mean, it's pretty
For
hard to
6
get
to
here even at
7:45.
6 sometimes, but I guess if this is a couple months out in advance, we can all plan. What day of the week is it?
Thursday, I believe, Wednesday or Thursday.
If it's just the open house component, that starts early, so, those who can make it. can make it.
Yeah, that's true.
How long does the open house last?
We had 15 to 20, but I'm thinking it's 15, the way we're talking now.
Cool, okay. I mean, that's kind of inherently how long it takes to start a meeting, period.
Yeah.
Right, and then people can start talking at 5, like 6 on dot. And we can just tell them goodbye, 7:45. See what happens. I'm worried about the custodial staff.
I'm not worried about but letting people know it's time to go.
Mhm.
I mean, that's fair.
Oh, no, but I'm just worried that it'll take a while to get them out. And if
Is
we
what
have
I'm saying.
stuff up.
I'm not worried about pushing people on the door.
Send me the school teacher. Take care.
So do we think we should look at whether we can start at 5:45 or?
I can ask. I figured we'd be there I'd try to get there at 5:30 anyways to set up and move it.
Right, it seems like as a committee, we should probably be committed to getting there around 5 anyway. Right? I mean, we need to set up all the projectors and the maps and the food and the chairs. I mean, there's just gonna be a lot to do to get it set up.
Yes,
So I think we should probably all anticipate it, if not. Like
I will email her and just say, can we get there at 5 to set up, confirm that, and then people start showing up at 5:45 to 7:45.
It's Wednesday, the 29th,
And on the tech issue, we kind of
Wednesday.
batted this around a bit,
Yeah.
but we just think it's too much to think about trying to like do Zoom breakouts. We're not doing that.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
it's not that hard, I guess, unless anyone disagrees about, the main component of the meeting, like the presentations and the Q&A to have that available if people want to join virtually. But I think that the marketing of it should be heavily encouraging people. to be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Embed a little link.
Very, very. Okay, well, maybe we can, so if we're gonna go 15 minutes, keep that the open house a little tighter. So then the PowerPoint presentation, I mean, we could similarly try to shoot it 10 minutes for that. I think. Put that on the tight side. So then we're talking about doing the Q&A before the small group meeting, so that would come in third. And then we do small groups. And we do the report out in closing. Just trying to make it all work in 2 hours. So how much time do we think we need for this kind of small group discussion, the way we're talking about it now?
Yeah, 30 sounds like more than 30 minutes in a small group.
Yeah,
Sounds hard to sit still.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. So much to cover, but yeah, okay.
Right.
That's true.
we could say 20 and then check in, see how people are doing and give them, 3-minute warning or something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if we're using the same questions for each group, we can have a lot of different groups, like we could say groups of 6, which gives you time to get through 3 or 4 questions.
Groups
But
of
we could
6
ask some
people?
groups to
Yeah,
start at the beginning, the list at the end, if they all
just
get to
saying
the
if there's
beginning.
40 people,
Yeah.
then 7 groups.
And so topics we're thinking about, right, it's like
Trying to
land
synthesize.
acknowledgement, one,
Yeah.
trails and wildlife, which I guess are 2 to 3, even though they're highly related. Just trying to map that out. So 3 topics times, it would be 6 people per group. That's 18 person topics per group.
It's hard for me to imagine that folks will stay on point with it won't devolve into some sort of discussion, which I don't think is a bad thing necessarily. I like the idea.
Well, there's gonna be such a disparity in thought time that people have put into this, that some people have a pretty established speaking voice on this in the community, and I feel like if there's not a cutoff, someone that isn't as versed might just get shadowed.
All the air will get sucked up. Well, let's put it in for 25 for now. So that's 40, 50. So that leaves us 1 hour and 10 minutes.
And transition wise into that, there's going to need to be some explaining of the protocol and how to do it and what that whole bit. I think it would account for at least like a 5-minute transition into those groups.
Yeah.
So should we let the groups, if there's 3 topics and they're all doing all 3, should we hand out protocols that have them listed in different order, just in case they start at the top and go to the bottom, or should we
Yeah, I
let
was thinking
them,
about that. Yeah.
should we let them actually choose which ones to do first as their opening thing, or any thoughts on
I like the idea of mixing the questions up. So you're making sure you're getting feedback.
Are we online? We don't have the Zoom people today?
They're right there on the
We
right.
do, they're
Oh,
on the
they're
right
there.
hand side.
Hi, guys.
So if we do have a list of questions or kind of are forming with the protocol, we need then a list of questions. And is this open-ended as how do we manage in a way that is, or what are your recommendations for X? Or thoughts on the land acknowledgement? What are those questions going to be? Or is it just more open-ended?
We haven't got to that level. We didn't get to that level of detail. So. it's-
Thoughts about that in the committee?
Yeah.
More directed questions versus open-ended.
Keep
I
it-
think will also help, as you were talking about, people who might not be as well versed on what's been going on. I think a more directed question
Yeah.
is helpful to level the playing field.
What things might you direct them towards? And I think Bowen's point, if it's a semi-abstract structure that we can generalize across topics.
Right, because, and again, it's sort of like, what's the point of the groups or the whole thing? Because it could be like, what are your questions about the land acknowledgement? What are your questions about the trails? What are your questions? Or it could be, what's your beef about each of these topics? Or what are you so excited about each of them? So that's the generalizable thing that could be applied across all, but it's very different outcome. So I think we need to figure out what do we what are we, A, wanting to give people space to say? And B, what are we wanting to get back in order to inform our next moves?
What if it's just like, I mean, like, what are you excited about and what's your beef? So what, like pros and cons, you've seen the proposal, like here are the proposed changes in this topic area. What do you think is beneficial in proposed changes and what are you concerned about with these proposed changes?
And what do you suggest we do? I think
And
that
what do you suggest we do?
Those three, what are you excited about? What are you concerned about and what changes?
It's kind of like a rosebud thorn thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those like or orchids and onions.
Orchids and onions.
that's the eggnog.
But then eggnog and onions?
Yeah.
Eggnog? Never.
He's from the Midwest.
Delicious together.
Ambrosia salad.
What were the
Um,
three again? Excited, concerned.
And change. So this really, it definitely assumes people have been really paying attention and or got a lot out of getting there in the beginning and spending 15 minutes milling around looking at stuff.
And hearing from the experts.
Because if we're saying, oh, okay, because
we're-
we are gonna do this after the experts.
Sounds
Did we move that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, then maybe that's. Because if the point is really targeted at the management plan revisions, that's a really specific thing. It sort of like implies that you understand not only what we're talking about changing, but what was there before and what's the gap between them. And then here's if you understand both of these things well enough, then you can say what you're concerned about here in the middle, That's my only concern is like, I'm very immersed in this and that's still a very focused point to be looking at.
It is, but that's what this meeting is
That's
kind
the
of
part,
for though. And so
yeah.
I think that maybe that goes into our, like, sort of the marketing materials or like, here is ample information for you to review in advance. And yeah, of course, anybody's welcome to come, but understand that meeting is about this.
Right. And so then the question is, does that end up discouraging a huge portion of people? If it's sort of like, this is this great meeting you're invited to, and you need to do like a lot of homework if you're gonna get anything out of it or be useful to us.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
Right.
Right?
Because in
This was
theory, that's
wanting
the idea
for-
of saying you come in and there's this open house thing where you can look at it all, you can absorb it. We're going to make it sort of digestible for you enough that you can participate in this process, even if you haven't been hanging on by a thread the whole time. But then if these questions are really incisive, then I think we're going to be like asking people. It could be more than most people can do, but maybe there's a way to just participate more superficially at whatever level you're at.
Right, that's what I was thinking, like, somebody might say as simply as, I like it, Another person would be like, in, section 2.3A, I don't like the blah, 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 because they said it.
I'm thinking about forest, like NEPA meetings for national forests, which are different scale, but similar, and also classes. You can't assume people have done the reading when you break them into discussion groups. And also, I think, thinking back on the sort of public open house and process meetings, part of NEPAs or forest management planning nationally. And they spend a chunk of time like going through their maps and decisions they made. And these are the 4 alternatives that we considered, and this is what we chose, and before they solicit public input. So I'm just wondering if we need more than 10 minutes for our PowerPoint in order to get something useful at the other end, or even give something useful to the community. Because a lot of it that people are sorting through that have been coming to the meetings and following, it's all written in this management plan. And I think we might spend more than 10 minutes.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, and is there language that we can use when we're sharing it with the community? I know you we're trying to get to this with your comments on our push out ad that makes it less about a document and more about the forest. So if you're like, cool, I would love to go give feedback about the forest, but I don't really want to go to a document review.
But the snacks are gonna be great.
Yeah.
And that too makes me think of how we message it, the word management plan revision, I think at the detriment that you were just pointing out, and also is confusing because we are arguably not according to some use of the term revision, revising the management plan, what we are doing is like implementing it and making the document reflect the implementation, also adding land acknowledgement. So that to me is part of the messaging here. And I wonder if that does make it more simple. Like, we don't need you in your group to do a line by line edit. You're welcome to, but we don't need you to. You don't have familiarity. What we're talking about is implementing trails as such and protecting wildlife as such.
I wonder if we can, taking that idea, I wonder if we can have two parts of the small group discussion. One would be a quantitative piece, one would be a qualitative piece, because like, if we could, you know, like the little dot graphics that people make, where it could be, let's get everyone's read on these basic questions and then have a discussion that follows. Because I also wonder too about reporting out. If half the people say one thing and half the people say a different, or it's just like there's a complexity of voices, like how in the world is someone going to be like, as a group, we decided this thing and we have this voice? Like, I don't think we'll have any unified voices. So what is there like a visual representation that people could do that could be sort of like the discussion could revolve around, or they could look at that and be like, oh yeah, no, I want to move my thing here. I'm like feeling this, I'm feeling like a little bit differently now that I heard this person's perspective or whatever. And then that could be what the group has to show, is like, this is where as a group we all land on these questions, as opposed to a qualitative share out that I think would just be really hard to do. And then the discussions can kind of go wherever they want to go, right? Like with moderation, but it doesn't have to be like, okay, guys, we have 2 minutes, come to an answer, right? It's like that thing that you produced is your answer, and you can create organic conversation around that.
So maybe, are you talking about like having a big piece of paper, and as people go around and have their 2 minutes, somebody's putting up their words there, and then at the end, everybody gets sticky dots and they get to put them
Yeah,
up?
it could be some, yeah, like that variety of infographic visual representation. Can be what I was thinking.
I like that.
One thing we discussed as a potential closing for the whole event, not necessarily closing, as people leave, which may or may not happen at the end of it, would be basically a worksheet that we maybe structure as something like, for each management objective, wildlife, trails, land acknowledgement, they indicate where they are on a scale ranging from not far enough or too much. So in other words, for like wildlife protection, you might be like, we are not doing enough for wildlife protection, and be like, no, we're doing enough, or being like, you are going overboard wildlife protection. And the same for trails and the same for land acknowledgement. And that way getting a quantifiable report out piece that hopefully until at the end after the discussion of the learning.
Or could it be part of like the breakout session? Like, are you suggesting, yeah, they're kind of a reflection of where people started and then where they ended with?
Yeah, or like that they could do it at the beginning, and as they discuss, they have the opportunity to move their whatever, their data point. But that then the discussion could happen more organically, because that visual representation is the share out. That is the data that we use.
And that guarantees it gets done versus.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough time for people to grok what's going on, explain it, hear it, change their minds, record it. I just don't know that I don't know that we're looking to change hearts and minds and can do that in this format.
Well, I don't mean like we care if they change their mind or not, only that they can, or only that the quantification of the discussion is something that isn't just like a snapshot in time within that discussion, that people can go up and change it if they hear a different point. But
Yeah, I have an idea. What if everyone had a little exit ticket, right? A half sheet of paper, and it had 3 number lines on it, like you're saying, 1 for each question. And 1 was not far enough, 2 was good, and 3 was too far, right? Something like that. And then they put an X on the number line for each question where they're at and hand it in. So we could be like, oh, we just quickly averaged 60 answers on this question and people were at 2.4. And this question, people were and it gives some numerical.
I like that idea, because maybe your little small breakout group was really leaning one way, but you were still feeling another way, but so you get to express that on your exit ticket.
Right, and you do it at the end of it after.
The very end, it's going to pick it up, do it on the way out.
And then what would we do with that?
Well, I think Melissa Levy would probably synthesize that into the report, like here's a general flavor of however many breakout groups, and here's another data point from your exit tickets. So just, sure.
But it's like, it's basically like satisfaction data about the changes that we made from the old version of the management plan to the new version, or like the work of the committee, or like, I'm trying to think how we would use that information. It sounds good to me off cuff. It sort of seems like it's a tidy way to sort of get the pulse of what's going on there. I'm feeling like, I always feel like we shouldn't gather any data that we don't have like a real plan for using.
I feel like
And I'm not
select
sure
board.
what we'd do with it. You think?
I'd say the select board would be. It would be, and well, we don't know how it's going to end up, but as like some degree of high level, here's how the community is feeling.
Yeah, so but let's just say, what if it says most people are sort of like not really into this? That really what we end up getting is maybe we have 10 people show up, and the 10 people who are most showing up are like, I'm not really good with the way you're going. Are we going to go back and change all the things that we've changed, or, you know, I mean, and I know the purpose of this session is to get feedback and stuff. I'm just wondering how we're planning on.
I don't see it as a social scientist. I don't see it giving us actionable data that isn't biased. And so if we're really going to be counting what people say, that would encourage people with different perspectives to pack the room and hand in their exit tickets. And I think what we really care about as a committee is not the number of people who think each thing, but if there are any, good ideas or things we missed, or we didn't really consider that, or, and that's why we have experts and stuff. We're not counting up what the experts say. We want them to have expert opinions. So here when it's the public, we want to know, where the public perceptions are. And I don't know that just a raw count along a spectrum. I think I'd have trouble filling out a spectrum. I get mad at it, I'm sure, because there are different aspects. Well, I like what you did about wildlife here, but not over here. I love what you did about trails here, but not over there. That we want that level of input, I think, rather than a vote.
Yeah.
Then, because the idea was like coming from a report out from the small groups, as if the report out needed to have some value towards impacting the management plan or decisions around it. So maybe maybe we need to think about that more expansively. Like maybe we don't need a report out that then informs the management plan. Maybe it's about that small group discussion being a forum for community members hearing from one another, and for us to listen and to take those nuggets that we might hear and simply say, like, we're going to take this and this will be part of the final report. And it's not totally comprehensive. We're not going to get everyone's idea, but we're going to try to take nuggets that we haven't thought about, and it'll just get incorporated in, rather than like a shared of like, this group says A, B, C, and this is what we think should happen to the management plan.
I like that. I do really like the idea. And that feels like a way to get all the good nuggets without it being the person who shares out getting to kind of shape what comes out of it. But I'm thinking about it from a participant perspective. Will that be satisfying to just share ideas in a small group? It should be.
And not,
If we're genuinely-
shared out. to the
Yeah,
larger group.
yeah. But I really like that.
Except that, like, at least if the understanding is that whatever you shared in the group may not get said to the group that happens to be there, but it's all getting said to us.
Yeah.
So if that's the main goal, is for us to get all these points of commentary from everybody who shows up, then they will, whether they get said out in the breakout. Report out.
And we save all the time of having each group report.
Yeah.
I've had very mixed experiences
tedious.
with groups reporting back.
Yeah.
But we could save that time to see, once people have had their small group discussions, are there any, additional points or questions while we're all here together, figure out some way to close it. That might have come up during the discussion and there was nobody there that could have answered in that small group. Or something.
I mean, and honestly, if it's like I want to make sure that my stuff counted and was heard, and I really am interested in what everybody else is saying, is it our intention, or could it be like whatever the synthesis that Melissa Levy may do, of just actually type up all that and put here's the 6 small group reports, this is what everyone said, so that we can say we decided to economize the time on not doing group report outs in person here, but you're gonna be able to read everything people contributed, which is all the feedback that's coming to us. So you can see what we're getting, so that we're very transparent about what's coming out and going in. Because I think like, it feels like a goal in this is that people feel heard and not a sense of like, I showed up, I said what I was gonna say, and then who knows if anyone ever saw it again. So I think feeding it back into the public and then making clear that that's a document we're all working with as well.
And part of it'll be how it's set up in the beginning, because they may have comments that don't seem to be relevant to what exactly we've been wrestling over. But the idea is that every year we're supposed to like sit down and look, is there some reason we need to either revise or deal with the management plan? Or, you know, this is the two things really that we decided to take on that needed to be done. One is implementing what we had said we were going to do about the trail plan, and the other is adding this land acknowledgement and use rights. And making it clear that we'll hear these other things, but we're not going to rewrite the whole management plan now for everything else. We're going to put that in our pile for next time. So
Yeah. That the input that we feel that doesn't apply directly now will be used.
yeah,
over time. This is a
will
continuous
still be
process.
used. Yeah. And I think it would be helpful, you know, when we talk about the land acknowledgement, that it's combined with the sort of use rights piece, so that people understand it's not just words in the front of a document, but it's actually how we manage, and it could really transform things or be expanded upon over time.
So just in terms of timeline, just kind of bring us back to that, see if we can get agreement. I'm now at an outline that looks like a 15-minute open house, expanding the PowerPoint to be a 20-minute period of time to give a little more time than what we're talking about.
If that works, I was thinking at least
I
15.
think it does, because
The other one I talked about is just mention that there's been past public input, you know, and there will be in the future. And just one slide on that.
so that's 35. Then a Q&A, we could do the Q&A at the 45. So bring that down to the lower. So that's for 80 minutes, and then small group of a half an hour, that brings us to 110 minutes. And then you've got your maybe 5-minute closing, and you've got 5 minutes of transitional time in there between things.
I think small groups at 25.
It's 25.
What do you think? I thought I heard people say 30 spelled like it could
I
be
mean, I think
wrong.
if you say 30 and you account for the transition, you're gonna get 25.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking, we'll
Yeah,
take that
that could
5 and put
include
it into
the, here's how
transitions,
this
but
works.
yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
well,
Find
we'll
your
put
chair.
25.
I mean, I
Then
think we
we'll
have to
have-
account too for breaks. People are gonna have to like use the bathroom. I don't know. I mean, like,
That's on their
there's-
own.
yeah, there's like 2 hours of like, yeah. I mean, not that we have to like have set breaks in there, but I just think my experience has been, it all takes longer than you think.
Well, maybe what we do then is set the small group at 25. That means it gives us a full 10 minutes that are unaccounted for, and that gives us some of the wiggle.
How many experts were we thinking? 3 of us that are here or 2?
We're gonna have Arrowwood, we're gonna have VLT rep there. Were we gonna have the wildlife? We're talking about a wildlife expert.
And we talked about whether or not we have somebody from the state, but that might interact a bit with what the Conservation Commission, or I think would be good to hear about.
Right. Yeah, good point.
What's the timing on the Conservation Commission one? Is it gonna be before this?
Yes, definitely before.
I just didn't know if we should invite someone from Richmond Racial Equity, or
Mhm.
I don't want to have to take a lot of time, but it's just a few follow questions about the land acknowledgement and use right.
And I don't quite know how to navigate the event with the RCC, only in that I don't want to share out the people that we're contacting in a public forum in case they say no, and we have to choose new people. So I don't want it to like be out there that these are the people and like then the people be disappointed or something if it doesn't work out. So maybe what I would say is if folks are interested in contacting this, someone from the state, maybe I could just work with that one person to coordinate that but not have that on public record in case things change. That makes sense.
Are you guys also getting the melting pot fondue restaurant from Stowe to Peter? We are.
We are.
No.
I
The drums so excitement on
eat the
public
box of
record.
crackers.
Any other ideas on experts that we think we should have? And I think we want to be careful about not getting broader than. We're gonna have 45 minutes and a lot that's gonna be focused on Arrowwood, obviously.
Yeah, I have one other big thought. What about the idea of taking the 15-minute sort of chat and splitting it and having a break in the middle where people can digest and share a little bit? Or is that 15 minutes when they're viewing?
What, the open house?
Yeah. Is that when they're viewing the material on the walls?
Yeah, it's sort of like before it
Okay.
starts.
I mean, what you were saying was making me think that some break time in there actually would be valuable just for people like processing.
Right, like after our presentation, but before the Q&A, is there like a 5-minute, go
Right.
get some food and snacks?
Go look at the poster again because you thought of something.
So you're
I mean,
saying,
probably a more natural place for that to happen is when everybody's getting up and moving their chairs around to get into a small group, get some food. Look at the poster if that made you think about, you really want to look at a map when you heard them talking about XYZ.
Yeah.
I think for a limited amount of time, I think having people get up after just gathering for that first 20 minutes or something,
Oh, right.
I think
yeah,
would be
the
like-
house,
like
yeah.
just feel a little bit forced.
Yeah, I agree.
How long is the expert presentation?
We've got 45 minutes right now as well. We got a lot of,
And that might be a long sit on the back of our presentation for people.
we add it together and it's an hour and 5 minutes. It's like, I feel like if somebody needs to get up, they're
They
gonna
can
get
get
up.
up and go to the bathroom. We can encourage people, like part of the little intro can be, feel free to like get up and go look at a map if you feel like it when somebody's talking. Go get some apple juice,
Take a nap, we've got nap stuff in the corner.
I can see you cut that down to 30. Give a good cry and then break between sessions.
Kleenex corner.
we need a 10-minute break. Really don't, it's 2 hours. People go to a movie and sit for 2 hours. Yeah.
You're saying this is gonna be like a movie?
Better
Poor
snacks.
Not yet rated.
I think we got a rough idea. We probably need to hit some other things, so. let's move.
I need to leave at 7:20.
Okay.
Sorry, just to let you know.
So let's talk a little bit maybe about technology needs. So I think we're in agreement that maybe we're just going to be doing the virtual part as like the main meeting. So they have that already, everything we need to do like a Zoom and be able to show like a video camera up there, like so they can see the speakers.
I don't know the layout, how it's gonna be, to be totally honest with you. The Wi-Fi checks out, Quinn said. Do we need our own projector and screen and that? I don't, I put in for a projector and a screen, but I haven't heard anything back.
We have a really cool thing at BYCC, like a camera. that we
Oh,
could
the
use.
360 one?
Yeah,
Yeah, they have one in the other room here, yeah.
yeah, and it actually, like, if you're talking, like, for the
Look at you.
expert, it'll like look at you or whatever, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
who-
flash your face up.
Yeah.
And can you bring it? Can
Yeah,
you
yeah.
move it and bring it here?
Yeah,
and
yeah, I
they'll
can bring in
still
that
Know what to
stuff.
do. Cool.
We also have projector, we have like a projector.
Okay,
So, yeah, there's some stuff I could bring.
all right, so we know we need it, whether we get it from the school or
Yeah,
speakers, all that stuff. There is some in the chat there, Jesse. That was.
Okay, Brad, so we're not going to Zoom the breakouts. We're going to encourage people to be there in person. Zoom will be the main meeting only. And timeline's 15 minutes open house. These are approximate times, 20 minutes PowerPoint, 45 minutes Q&A, 25 minutes small group. We'll build a break in and then 5 minutes of closing.
I was having one thought about the Zoom, I agree that having like a Zoom situation in each of the breakout groups, but couldn't we just have like, if we are having it accessible by Zoom, right? The overall presentation someone can Zoom into?
Yeah.
Because like just, if there's 10 people who show up on Zoom, they could form a group that just talks on the little breakout room. No? Why? Why? Just like they're just talking to themselves with the same
How are
protocol
we
that
gonna, how are
everybody
we
else
gonna
is.
monitor that? If one of us has
We'd
to
have
be
to
on
have
that?
somebody sit on.
I mean, if you want that, I mean, you want them just to chat?
Well, they're just doing the same thing that the group of 6 people over in the corner is doing, and they have the same little piece of paper, and they're just talking to each other and hearing each other for 1 minute on this topic, 1 minute on that topic, 1 minute on that topic, and writing it down.
As long as one of us is getting that info, I don't want them just to be doing that and it never get captured.
Yeah, I mean, I can sit in on that group if it's just like the who doesn't want to be looking at a screen, I don't care, but it's like, honestly, like, that's just the easiest thing. If we're going to have a little protocol, then whoever's there can just be typing it into it. They can be more efficient than the other people because they'll just type it in and have their
And share the
little
screen.
sheet.
I do that all the time for school because
Oh, yeah.
all the classes are hybrid now and it's always,
Yeah.
but I usually have a TA to that.
I know how to do the breakout rooms in Google Meet.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a little,
Drop 6 people in one.
right. And it would just be everyone on that would just be like
Yeah,
everyone on that
sure.
call would just be doing that. It's not projected into the room. They're not interacting with anyone in the room.
Right, so there's 12 people, you put them in 2 rooms.
Yeah.
It's,
But then you need to have a, facilitator for
Seems
2 groups.
complicated. I know it seems easy now, but when
No, okay.
I'm just trying to make it as easy as possible. This sounds pretty. I'm just afraid of I just don't want to drop a
Yeah,
ball.
me
I don't want to throw a ball that I can't catch.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I think it's great if we can Zoom it and they can be getting all that info, but
and we're gonna be doing a share out piece.
I wouldn't be opposed to saying, at any point, put something in the chat and we can print off that
Mhm.
material. But I'm not sure about. I think we might be spread thin.
Mhm.
He's not here. Hopefully everybody can make it, but we could,
that's true. If there's one. Yeah, 8 people, there could be like that many breakout groups.
Yeah.
And then if there's like 30 people on Zoom. then you have-
Mhm.
Well, Melissa
I
will
mean,
be
yeah,
there.
no, it's a good thought though. I mean, if we have 25 people come and there's 20 people on Zoom, then I think we can pivot,
Maybe that's a good,
Yeah.
right?
because you're right, they're
I
all
think
gonna-
I just have this sense, maybe there's some other way of just have your stuff, put this stuff in the chat. I think I just have this sense that this is how things are done nowadays, and it becomes an accessibility issue for people who don't go in public because they're afraid of COVID or whatever. So we just but the point is we are allowing everyone to absorb. It's like if we want those people to be able to participate as well, we could even just make available that protocol template. They could be spending that time writing it in. They could just write in their answers and send them to us or something like that. I just think there should be some way of saying, like, I was even just thinking as from the logistics subcommittee, like when we're inviting people, it should feel like you're invited even if you are not someone who goes out of your house or something.
I like that idea. If there's a Google form after the experts present and we present, and folks that are online that can't be in it, that want to share their thoughts on the 3 questions, and submit through a Google form.
I think I would rather see it because we've gotten so much information
Yeah,
from so
yeah, I
many people.
agree.
And so if it's going to be
In
that
the chat.
everybody's spelling out their own thing, then I'd rather see a designated person in the large breakout group aggregating into one. So I think that would be my thought, just because there've been so many ways in which people can submit information.
Right.
So then I would
Right,
go for what
hesitate
you're.
to have a Google form of that. I guess I was thinking about if it's just in the chat, then you have to be present on there and you're just doing it right then during the meeting.
But then we can
That's
still
too
get
much
30
random
different
stuff. Right, if it
responses
is a
from 30
lot of
different
people.
people. So then I'm back to thinking what if we're going to accommodate people on Zoom, then I would, if yes, then I'm with you about there should be one person in there taking notes.
I agree too, because I think you could get very lengthy individual
Yes.
comments from the people that are only online versus the group aggregate.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a good point.
So I think that leaves in the question, do we go for it and have a one single breakout room? And I totally hear your point, Amy, about equity and access now. Or do we say no? And I think I would probably still lean towards,
You
Cool,
can
but-
absorb through Zoom, but you're not, if you're doing through Zoom, we're not. Yeah, gathering.
We're gonna be putting information up in advance and encouraging folks to, issue questions that they want answered and thoughts too. I just think that there's multiple ways that people can
Mhm.
share depending on what their circumstances.
I don't know. I think if Amy is willing to do it, just have one big Zoom and realize, that it won't be perfect. It might be 30 people, it might be 2 people. But for kind of accessibility and seems like if you're willing to do it.
Sure.
And if it's
Message,
comfortable.
something effective, the most reliable way to fully, everyone is welcome to participate, you can participate remotely. The most reliable way to participate is in person. The way that will not be stuff. I do have concerns about the online breakout, having technical difficulties or having people late start, because we have to realize we've disconnected from the screen and not have the audio broadcast and the whole cafeteria, then reconnect the audio broadcast again. None of this is going to be a barrier, but I don't want people to think I will get full participation access by staying home. And then we have hiccups and you're like, I can't get
Yeah.
full participation.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're gonna miss the open house at any rate.
We will, you're right. Because it's not our usual space, it might not be our
Yeah.
usual.
Something
Yeah.
pop up, that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, well then
So what I said, I doesn't mean that we can't do it. I just want to make
Yeah.
it clear to people what they're opting in for if they opt in for that participation.
Yeah,
No promises.
and you don't get snacks.
yeah.
Also,
No snacks, no open house, and maybe no small group.
If you dip your hands in the fondue bowl.
Okay. So we've got location and time. We talked about marketing of public engagement. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that marketing team? I know Chase, you reached out to me and you guys have had some talks about.
Yeah. Jim reached out to Mark Aiken, who's gonna help us synthesize a advert. Post for the Times Inc. for February and then again for March. And we bulleted a little agenda, and I can add a little more. And the one thing that maybe we add it in March, but not February, is where's the place where people would contribute their questions to the experts in advance.
Is it
Yeah.
too late for the February one?
February 9th.
No, yeah. No.
Yeah, we're good.
So, yeah, we could put it in then, and why not? If it's ready, we should.
We're gonna do it
So, yeah, how will be the questions? I'm just adding it, actually, I'm in the doc that
like- Oh,
you,
good.
so you can contribute questions in advance. How do we think we were gonna do that? Was there any thought about that yet?
We
What would be best?
utilize what we did when we asked for public comment before, and it was a
Yeah,
link to the website.
Oh, the Google form?
Link to a
Google.
form. Yeah.
we're encouraging community members to submit questions to the experts in advance. So that the experts can prepare responses.
Yeah, and by using a form, will they be able to see what other people are asking?
We can set it up that way.
And I don't know if that would be useful,
Mm,
so that you could go and make sure you're not being duplicative, but also maybe you think of a question.
How would you do that?
Last time we used Google and so we put the two links. one
Oh, the
link to the form,
spreadsheet, yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay.
One to link to the data.
Just beware of reordering those.
We can catch it flag. So the sequence in which they were displayed on the page.
If you're going to have that link so people can submit their questions, might there be some disclaimer that said there may not be time to answer every single question? In different meeting, so that.
And then links may not work in the Times Inc.
No matter how.
but it's pressing them.
I mean, if we get 200 questions or something. We're able to get rid of them.
Nick, is because it's something that goes through the website and stuff, is that something you could just give us a link to, or?
Sure.
Okay,
So
okay,
Yeah,
That
we
would-
could post that from the forum.
yeah, I mean, I think we can put it on. I think we put it, same thing in the Times thing.
Yeah, just do a short link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, before we submit this to, well, we have to give it to Mark Aiken, I think, in advance of the 9th, because we want him to have time to write it.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
So, yeah, thank you, Nick, if that's, we'll just add that link in.
And so we're talking about a form that's as simple as, please type in your question here. Press enter, and it'll link to the data set too.
yeah.
And the data set is everybody else's, all the questions.
And we're looking to collect no information except the question. Is that right? Not name.
Yeah,
Not even category of question, trails. Wildlife.
Hmm. Do we want them to do some of the sorting before? Does that make it? easier?
It's, you could be like checklist one, which one of the three is about trails, wildlife.
Or, and not, make not sure an option, just so that's not too tedious.
Yes.
Or,
Or just to drop down, I have a question about trail, a comment about, or not comment, just questions, right?
mhm.
Questions for the experts.
No, really, I think that's important because we don't want to reduplicate said spreadsheet from 2022 or 21. I'm losing track of years. So,
Okay, all the forms have got the categories, including an other or don't know or something, and then a field for a question.
Oh, that's good.
And so that people can submit more than one question, and then they would pick a different, what if they had one for trails, one for land acknowledgement?
yeah, going 3 times in.
Okay. It'll be, so they can just,
Yeah, at the end, it should say submit another response or another question.
right, if you have another question, yeah. Click
Unless
here
Nick
or something.
clicks the box that each person only gets one.
As soon as you make the character question mark, it's like, thank you for your.
And we'll add it to that document.
yeah, we can add it to the document and then use that as a basis for response.
And we should send that, put that in the notes too.
Do you want me to share it with you?
Yeah, it's fine. I
As a
mean,
Google Doc?
yeah, my only question is whether you feel like you know enough about the contents of the meeting now to be able to write it. I suspect the answer is yes. Is
I
there
think we
anything
do
that
need
you
to
feel like you
update this
don't
based
know
on
about?
what,
Yeah,
don't you think?
yeah.
If we want to get more, a little more specific.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, it's a bulleted list now, so I don't know if it needs to go in the minutes per se.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't need to be on the notes.
So,
No,
yeah.
no.
With our like
Just making sure. you
edit
guys feel
comments
like-
all over it.
Okay, yeah, just shoot me a version of it. While we go live with it. Anything else from logistics and marketing that you guys need to talk to?
I think I know it's so silly, but we have to go ask for money
Yeah, that's right.
for food. Like, we're gonna spend a couple $100 on food and I did email Josh, but we do have to go to the select board to ask for that money. So,
Yeah, there's two ways, I guess I would. I mean, I think that what we probably need to do tonight is get an estimate of every total,
Yeah.
everything we want to make in a request. and then just go and, seek funding in excess of that, like, a window of funding that they'll approve for us.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know how we actually get the money.
I mean, they write the checks. Might need we might need a reimbursement mechanism. Almost.
If it's stuff from Richmond Market, I wonder if they have like, they can invoice them directly or something.
It's a good call, yeah. I mean, what are our expenses? Besides like the food and drinks and stuff, is gonna be printing materials? Are we gonna print, write some maps and such? So that's a couple $100, right? No,
I'm not sure.
I mean,
If you do it at Staples, it's expensive.
If it's a color,
yeah, a couple $100, $200, $300 for printing total.
Would they do it here? Like would the planning office do it cheaper?
I don't know if they could do a big print, can they?
no, I can't.
The food we said like a couple $100, $200 to $300.
Yeah.
Or 600, so
Food printing was their other
I
category.
mean, we don't have to use the money.
No.
We just have to say, what, for them to approve. Yeah, you can spend $800 on this meeting, right?
Yep, I think we need a category, the
Yeah, yeah.
categories of where the spending is, so.
Exactly.
Food printing, what other things are gonna be expenses that are not?
Um,
We don't pay the school.
no, that's free.
You getting a babysitter?
That's the thing?
Yeah.
We'll hire.
I'll,
Hire a
I'll.
team. hire a
Caleb will
team.
babysit. $6 an hour. Per kid. Oh,
Yes, thank you.
I can't think of what else we need to spend money on.
We're gonna have. You have beer?
No, not the school.
We can't have beer? Is that what she said?
Well, yeah, I just want, I mean,
Yeah, no, that would be cool to have some more after parties. After.
I wasn't
Two
kidding when I said.
of them.
apple juice.
7:55 to 8.
Okay, so
When is the,
When-
when is the
like
next?
well, they meet twice a month, so can hit one of the February ones, okay.
Put that on my.
$200 won't go
It
there.
brings in,
You might need more than 200.
Yeah,
36 or $63 for a custom poster printed, but that's like high quality printing, and that's not
do we need to go color?
for maps. Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big ones are like $100.
Wow, okay, I wouldn't have guessed.
Is there a way we could think about doing, we have projectors?
Mhm.
Doing, if we say we had 10 maps. Like each projector, say we had 3 projectors, each projector had a rotation of like 3 maps that would stay on for like 10 seconds or something.
I think we talked about that last time and then decided this would still be easier,
Okay.
right?
cool.
Did we,
Yeah,
did we talk?
it
about
does ring a bell.
Printing was that expensive.
We did talk about that.
Projector failure and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, they could also be, we could print out 10 of smallest one, whatever, yeah.
How many
$300.
maps? Do we have, how many maps are we thinking about printing?
So one, we were just talking about this earlier, probably one that has the final trail design, is just the trail design map. And then one that includes the various, like the sensitive communities, that kind of thing. And whether or not we end up overlaying the buffer, which is advised but not stipulated in the management plan, is another question. So
I
that's
just wonder if we could overlay everything and
it's
then
so ugly.
make it big,
It gets real
buy
bad.
one.
Yeah, we can try.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not a GIS person.
I think that one thing we talked about was I think having one that's like, this is this is what we're psyched about. And having it not have all the, here's this vernal pool and here's this hemlock stand, all that kind of, we're psyched about those things too. But having one that's like a clean trail map.
But one of the things I thought I was hearing repeatedly is that we didn't have an overlay that had everything important.
We'd have that too. Yes, but to have like one, to have a map that would basically be the one that goes on to, trail kiosk, which wouldn't have every last,
Oh, I see.
little bit.
I think we need, I don't know if we can do that tonight, but maybe within short period of time, would need an estimate on what the materials committee thinks it needs for money.
Not to exceed $400,
No, I would say 800.
not to exceed $800.
Or
Between
800
food
per
and
map?
pictures.
Oh, yeah, total 800.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say
Yeah,
that.
I had
That makes sense.
total.
Good, not to exceed 800 as a total.
Do you want me just to deal with that, Jesse, and email Josh and put it on the select board and go and do that?
If you're willing,
You have to go to the meeting in person.
you can just show up on Zoom.
Yeah.
When the agenda item.
Yeah.
comes up. You don't do that all the time. Yeah, that'd be great.
Is there any question that's gonna rise that? I can't think of.
Depending on the date, I'll try and jump on it. Jump on it, depending on where I'm at.
But I'll email Josh.
Yep, ask me to put it on the agenda.
I'm gonna ask how we get the money too. And maybe if we can get printing, I don't know if they have us, they must have they're always printing large maps, aren't they? No. Okay.
Did we come up, did we land on 5:45 to 7:45? That's what we want to say in the,
Jim's gonna have.
Yeah, let me confirm that.
Yeah.
Before we,
I'll leave it as a suggestion. All right,
you gotta go
so
in.
this is, I added Jim and Chase just more stuff to this document based on what we've talked about tonight, but you guys can
Okay.
edit it. I do have to go, sorry, guys.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we've talked about that takeaway of funding. Anything else from the material subcommittee that you guys wanted to report on? That's the full committee now.
No, I think materials will largely be maps, and then if there are any slides that should get blown up, that could get folded as it gets printed too.
Are you expecting us to produce the final PowerPoint that's going to be in the production as well, or is that a separate item?
We're gonna write the content of the PowerPoint. And Melissa could potentially will be involved in that,
Okay.
helping to probably structure and we can do it some too, but.
That makes sense. I think maybe the one overlap with maybe the maps and look at the one. In so much maps because it's a power.
They could, yeah, I think it'll be making maps for printing might be a little tricky to have displayed. Yes.
Even so. Like even if we calculate the whole blown up one,
Mhm.
anyway, I don't know, we can get there. I'm just saying that's the point.
Yeah, okay.
And there may be, going back to sort of the projector piece, Daniel, there may be. Maybe we use the projector to have the PowerPoint on sort of cycle potentially.
Oh, that's an idea.
So people can revisit those points. Just to give you quickly the PowerPoint, this is sort of the PowerPoint agenda as we view it. So a bit of history on the town forest purchase and the public engagement process that's resulted in the establishment of the original management plan. So just a history on what got from the purchase to the development of the original management plan. An overview of the key management objectives that exist in the original management plan. history of the steps taken to implement the original plan. So basically, what we've been doing to bring that to life. Why are we proposing revisions to the management plan? It's a big question out there. So like confusion around why is that occurring? What are the key changes being proposed and what is not changing? So drilling down to that. What is the purpose of this public engagement process and what are we hoping to gain from it? So that's sort of like then I think prelude to the breakouts and the Q&A. And then a description of what is the next steps in the process, like, what it was involved in going to the select board, and getting the plan, the rough outline of the slide presentation. Any thoughts?
That sounds great. I wonder if we should in there, or at some point, we should earlier than later in the night, give people the agenda a little bit like, we're gonna welcome you, go through this experts, and then we're gonna have small breakout rooms, just so they know what to expect. So people aren't clamoring to ask you a question. They know they'll have a chance to talk to somebody.
There could even be a cover slide that's.
Yeah, it could just be
Yeah,
the very
yeah.
first.
But those components sound great.
A huge colorful poster with the agenda on it. Print.
6 feet by
Print,
6
yeah. Print, it'll be only $150.
Yeah.
Fine.
Mhm. Oh, I spelled agenda with a J.
Spelled Jim with a G.
Okay, that's a good ad. We'll put that in. Okay. Does everyone feel like they have the direction they need? Is there any other subcommittee type topics we need to talk about now? Okay, so maybe we can move up to follow-up items from last meeting. So I'm just taking these things from our last minute meeting. So there was a discussion about getting back up to reflag the trail corridor. Jason and I talked about doing it. I haven't gotten around to it.
I walked it all, it's good.
Is
It's
it?
pretty good, yeah.
Flags are still there.
I followed it easily.
Oh,
I
good.
mean, except for there's trees, but.
Yeah.
And the wet zones that are newly marked are like heavily marked, like the whole way around. The
okay.
flagging is easy to follow. You can see
Great.
the other trail flagging over there, right?
Okay.
I mean, it's old flagging, but it didn't look like it was ready to fall off.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
There were some that were falling down, a few trees that were falling down, but I was able to follow it.
Oh, nice.
Great.
So both trails, you went to the top and down? Awesome.
So the urgency around that maybe isn't.
I mean, it'd be nice to do it in the winter when you can see it,
When did you go?
in the last month.
Yeah. Great. It's good to know.
Well, we'll
Good
put
job,
that,
boys.
put that on the back burner. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't wanna-
Well, if you decide you want to do it this winter, Chase, it's on you. I'm not going to be here now. You can go grab somebody else. Wetland specialist, Daniel.
Yeah, contacted. We're still communicating and figuring out what and when. But yeah, I reached out to folks I know at DEC in contact.
Thank you. Caitlin on spatial data from Arrowwood.
Got it.
Yeah.
And we're the extent to which we might include, that's the recent spatial data from the fine scale review. And I think one thing we discussed just now is that gets so fine scaled that I think that we would just use, we're not going to include that any new full property maps, but we would likely just print out a portion of their report where they already have some pretty clear maps about where potential reroutes would go. Because that can show a level of detail that a full property map just can't.
Okay, thank you. We got that last bit of management plan revisions Cecilia had 2 open items, I think.
I know, and Jesse, you've been really good at nudging me to do that, and I keep saying, yes, I'll do it now, because it'll take me half an hour, but I haven't had that half hour yet, so.
Okay.
I think it's people consulted around the land acknowledgement, and there was a sentence about concept map versus proposed trail map, and I have on my list clarify what a plan amendment is versus a plan revision, but I think I already put that into the text, so that might be what you have to.
Yeah, I just had 2 points, so I think it was the
Yeah.
first 2 you
Yeah.
mentioned.
So hopefully I can get to them, but it won't be tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
Although, should we have that understood totally? We should probably, at our meeting, it should be done.
Yeah.
Done, right? That's the goal, to have the full document completely.
Yeah, because we're gonna want,
Before the meeting, I mean.
Share it.
sharing.
Yeah.
yeah, I
right.
mean, we're gonna be providing it to the public for the purpose of their proposing questions.
Yeah.
Right? So, we need to have it in the month of February.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. January's
That's
over.
Wednesday.
Yeah, if we can get it, if we can get it in the next week, 10 days, be awesome.
Okay.
Because we still need to make sure we get the right red line done and some of that tech stuff. We're gonna make sure we get
Okay,
it right.
it's on my A list, all my to-do lists, and I
Right.
just,
Hey, trust me, I know where you're at, so I know you've done a lot, so thank you. RCC public dialogue update, is there anything more? Well, maybe we talked a little bit about it. Daniel, the RCC's plans for public discussion. But do you want to provide any more detail? Is there date set for it? What is the scope or focus of I think it's going to be a series, right?
Yeah, with the first in the series, wanting to make sure that happens before the ACFC meeting. So we've reached out to potential speakers with a date in early March. So it'll give folks plenty of time to attend that and absorb information and then attend the ACFC meeting if they want. And again, I just don't want to say specific folks in case it doesn't work out. But we have a good balance of people from different backgrounds. And the theme of this discussion panel would be balancing conservation and trail-based recreation. That's the general theme. Like the ACFC meeting, there'll be a chance for the public to kind of provide questions, and then we're going to collate those and give those to the panel and say these are going to guide our discussion with opportunities for public questions as well. So it's kind of like a 2-part thing where there's like guided questions and then open questions to the public, or open questions the public can ask. Yeah, 2 hours, and there's other folks that people have been interested in hearing from, and so there'll be opportunities to get more people with different perspectives like down the road, because we're seeing the opportunity to have a broader community-wide discussion about recreation and conservation, and so we don't have to answer all the questions in this one meeting. This is one panel discussion with a select group of people that can help inform this other discussion, but it can stand on its own as well. I think we want the general public to be involved. This isn't just for people who are interested in the ACFC, but people who might just be interested in recreation or conservation or both in Richmond generally.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds really good.
and I missed what date are you guys starting?
It's going to be in early March, but we haven't set a specific date because we have asked the speakers what their dates are.
Exactly.
We want to be flexible.
What do you got for
Yes.
snacks?
Yeah, we've got a budget from the select board for 1,000.
More than that.
Up to. So we'll be getting the good hummus.
When the date does get finalized, if I don't, just send an email
Absolutely.
through to our group. just to
Yeah.
Make sure we catch it.
For sure. Yeah, we're in contact with the speakers now, and so hoping to land on that in the next week or 2.
Awesome. Right. Okay, I think we're up to public comment. Anything I'm missing that we wanted to hit? Okay, thanks for your patience, everyone.
Public comment? Are you ready for public comment?
Yes, we are.
Okay, I'm sorry. I still don't know how to raise my hand in these meetings, but this is Marcy Harding. And I just want to say that I received a notice from Duncan Wardwell this morning at 9:30 or so about this meeting. I had received another notice earlier, but the meeting said it started at 5:30, and I was one of, I think, 3 people who tuned in at 5:30 and waited for half an hour for the meeting to start. So and since this isn't really the first time that there've been real lags in the start time of these meetings, maybe somebody on the committee can, I don't know if anybody on the committee noticed that the start time for this meeting was wrong on Duncan Wardwell's weekly message. But if somebody is aware of
I
it.
apologize, Marcy, but I think that's an error on Duncan's side. As you can see on the posted agenda on the website, it's 6 o'clock start.
Okay, yes, I found out that it was 6 o'clock on the website, but what I'm just saying is if somebody on the committee gets those messages from Duncan Wardwell and notices that the start time is wrong, maybe they could just hop on at 5:30 and say, hey, the meeting doesn't start until 6, so that people don't just kind of, the 3 of us were waiting around and nobody really knew what, why the meeting hadn't started. So, and if it was the first time, it would be one thing, but it's not the first time. It's happened quite a few times. And so I'm just hoping that somebody can let us know if there's a little snag like that.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. If I had seen that in Duncan's message, I would have done that. I did not see that there was a mistake on his end, and I will try to pay close attention to that.
Great,
It might
thank you.
also be wrong on the website. But we just have to talk to them. I don't think they got it that it changed.
Okay, thank you
I
very
think
much.
Yeah, and for the purpose going forward, our intent is to have 6 o'clock be the start time.
Okay,
Foreseeable future.
thank you.
Yeah, so just a heads up, Jesse, it does say 6 o'clock on the website, but it does look like it's wrong for February. No, it's right there.
Oh.
But for the next one, it does say 5:30, so we'll just have to tell Duncan or whoever.
Yeah, to adjust it. Okay, thank you. Paul, I saw your hand up.
Hi, just a few comments here. I think you should consider that how much time you have if you have a hard final for this meeting. You're trying to cram a lot into 2 hours here with the breakout sessions, and if you're serving food, you're going to have to corral people, and I'm just worried you're not going to have enough time to get to the actual presentation of what you want to do. Something else is that occurred to me. I haven't attended a few of these, but it sounds like from the original concept to what you've talked about tonight, the purpose of the meeting has changed from a summary and presentation of changes to the plan and the reasoning behind it to another public input session that might affect the final changes to the management plan. And to me, it seems like you've already had a ton of public input spanning across multiple years. And if you're looking for most of the people to show up at this thing, and that's like a last word type of speak, or it gets more weighting than some of the original public input, to me, that's worrisome. And that, it's the people who are bothering to show up, get last word at this thing. And I think, it seems like the committee's trying to find validation for what their decision-making process has been from people to be overwhelming. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you have to go with what your heart is and what you've worked so hard to put together and go with it. Otherwise, I'm just worried that, you're gonna, if you're inviting more public input to affect changes, if that's truly what could possibly happen here, once you make those changes, are you then gonna have another one of these meetings to get comment on that? You know, like at some point, you're gonna have to make some hard decisions here and go with what you have and present it to the select board. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thanks, Paul. Any discussion on that?
I think, yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, points very well taken there. And yes, I feel like we've had a lot of different contexts and engagement opportunities. Specifically in terms of the management plan revision, it does call for public engagement at this point. And so, yes, this meeting, we're encompassing a number of different topics, but the main impetus for this meeting, this public engagement event, is the management plan revision. So technically we do have to have this as well. But your points are very well taken, and I agree. I think there have been many opportunities for engagement, but this is kind of stipulated.
I think it needs, like you said, like one formal meeting about the plan revision, which we haven't had. And we do have to go into that actually listening to what people say as opposed to just defending what we did.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it was shaped this way.
Brad.
Yeah, the boy, I'm with Paul. Don't sweat the refreshments. God, I don't know. It's a personal thing, but you've done a great job trying to figure out how to allot those 120 minutes. If they have to only be 120 minutes, that's an if. But I really commend you guys for struggling with that and dealing with, 5 and 10 minute increments. Amy was right, and you got to worry about the transitions between all this. But generally, the big question I've got is about the maps. I don't see why we can't see a map that shows the trails, proposed trails imposed on the sensitive areas, and they're in the buffers that are supposed to be around them. I mean, how can it cannot be any more difficult to draw the 200 feet, which as conservative as that is, around those things, much less the 300 and 400 feet that we've seen. Hang on a sec. It isn't that hard. I mean, we could do some crude ones with a friggin' magic marker, and that's what it's all about. I mean, it's not the 10 feet of the trail, it's the impact zone around that trail, which is, there's tons of science, and we'll be presenting that science, and other people will be presenting that it's not just the 5 or 10 feet of whatever, hard packed, beautifully engineered surface that is built. It's the zones around that. So show it on a map.
We will show it on a map, Brad. You perhaps did not, we did not explain all the maps will be shown, but yes,
Okay.
the 200-foot buffer, as we described earlier, will be shown on a map.
Oh, excellent. And I'll say, I lost my connection at that crucial moment. So Caitlin, I apologize if that's in the plan. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing.
Good job.
All right, thank you, Brad.
Yeah, thank you guys too. This is a tough struggle. I don't envy you at all. But I do appreciate the effort from all of you. Don't worry about the cider and the donuts and crackers. Just we can live for 2 hours without refreshments.
Those
Just
are
a
for
hint.
us, Brad.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. You got
It's not a
plenty.
paid petition, so we got to
Yeah,
find our way.
yeah.
to get-
Yeah, lay it on at the post funk too. Thank you.
Any other public comment tonight? As always, thank you for joining us. It can be tedious. Okay, I think that closes out the meeting tonight. Any last words? Oh, sorry, let me check those chats. Good point.
I didn't see anything. in the chat.
Get that. Let's see. Nope, those are just the things that Brad brought up during his live comments. So I think we covered those. Okay, we're signing off. Thank you
Sorry,
all.
Marcy, about the timing issue.
Yeah, definitely apologize for that.
Thank you.